Welcome back to 420 Chief Podcast, where real stories meet real healing. Today's episode is one that hits close to home, not just for me, but for anyone who's ever fought battles long after the uniform came off. I'm sitting down with my brother, Berg, a Navy veteran who's walked through the fire and came out with a mission from the grip of alcohol and addiction to freedom of nature and plant based healing. His journey is a raw reminder that recovery isn't just possible, it's powerful. Berg isn't just building a camper, he's rebuilding a life with intention, simplicity, and heart. He's out there showing what it looks like to live fully one day at a time, and he's not doing it quietly. He's helping others find their way too. If you're a veteran, a friend, or someone looking for a spark of hope, settle in because today we're not just talking recovery. We're talking rebirth, purpose, and peace in the stillness. So with that said, I'm going to pull Berg in. How you doing today, brother?
Good. How you doing, Chief?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. I'm excited to talk to you today because we have similar backgrounds a little bit and similar interests that we use to find that balance and grounding in life that you need to get away from the noise sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
So let's I want to get to know a little bit more about you. Do you want to tell us, Berg, about where you're from and then what drew you to join the military?
Yeah. I'm originally from Minnesota. We grew up. I was pretty poor growing up. When I was about 4 years old, my dad got a job in Texas, and we moved down there, um, away from my whole family. And we were a pretty tight knit family. Grew up in Texas, joined the Navy from there. Um, After high school, got out of the Navy in 2005 after 9 years, and ended up back here because my whole family was back up here.
Right on. What was your rate in the Navy?
I went in as an EW, and then towards the end of it, we merged with CTTs. So
Yeah, I remember that transition because when I first came into service, I was actually supposed to be an OS, but they did a career development board and I had scored high enough on my ASVAB. They're like, "No, you're smart. You know how to use a computer. You're going to ITA school." Well, the ITs work directly hand in hand with the EWs. And so I
yeah,
was doing a whole bunch of OJT. I had to do 100 hours of OJT and do these 5 modules so that I could strike test out to become an IT instead of a deck seaman. And I remember in my 100 hours of OJT, I worked so much time with the EW guys because they needed help, adjusting things and tuning stuff
yeah,
up. So that's cool.
yeah. That is cool. And we just missed each other in the same battle group. Got there a year after I left the Enterprise to the Detroit there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was something else, man. That's what a small world. Same We were in the same area of operation at the same time. I think that's too cool. Totally different ships, totally different walks of life at the time, but small world, man.
Yeah, it sure is. I got a bunch of those stories from the Navy.
Right on. So tell us a little bit more about what the military life taught you, the good, the bad, the unforgettable.
I uh, I love the Navy. I didn't want to get out. I got medically separated. I didn't get injured or anything. It's a hereditary condition that just showed up when I was in, and I had over 8 years, so it was a medical retirement. But I when I started my senior year of high school, I realized that I'd really fucked around a lot and had no idea what my plan was afterwards. So I took the ASVAB, not even knowing what it was for. I took it to get out of class, honestly. And next thing you know, I get a call from the Navy recruiter. I scored pretty high on it, and we I was like, yeah, let's do it. I wanted to see the world. I was kind of torn between the Air Force and the Navy, and then I saw the comedian Sinbad. I was watching his stand up after work one night, and he was talking about his time in the Air Force, and he's the one line is what made me join the Navy is I joined the Air Force to see the world, and I spent 4 years in Kansas. You ever been to Kansas? It's like, maybe it is. So I went to MEPS, and I really had no interest in doing electronics. It was just kind of what they were saying was what you need to learn for the future. If you want to make a good living in the future, electronics was the way. So I signed up to be an EW, and the detailer there told me there was a 4-year option or a 6-year option. And I asked him what the difference was, and he said 2 years. And what the actual difference was, the 6-year option, you got tech school. The 4-year option, you were just an operator. So I didn't, I did a job I wasn't really interested in, thinking ahead in the future and, just a career that really didn't interest me. And then I didn't even get that. But I did love the Navy. I loved being out to sea. I loved being on a ship. And that was just one time that I was doing something because it's what you're supposed to do, not following my heart and what what I wanted to do. If I'd known anything about the Navy, I would have been a Seavey. So I didn't hate the job, but I didn't love it. I
Yeah.
liked the military aspect of it, and after I got off the ship, I went and did physical security. Learned that I did not want to be in law enforcement. That is not my vibe at all. um, I learned the good was that I gained confidence in myself. Like I grew up without much really low self-esteem, not much confidence, and I got into an environment where I was surrounded by guys that they hold you up, they push you, and they motivate you, and I started believing in myself more and more. And looking back now, I was always looking up to these guys, and we still hang out. We get together. It's been a couple years now because of just stuff happening, but we used to get together once a year and go ice fishing, and they felt the same way about me as I felt about them. It's like this guy's really someone I can look up to and learn from. And looking back on it, we all gained that from each other, and that bond was the best thing that happened in the Navy. Like,
Yeah. That sense of camaraderie. Yeah, it's hard
yep,
to
and
find that.
it really is. And then when I got out, I worked at a golf course for a couple years, and then got into an apprenticeship as a pipe fitter. And it's kind of a similar bond. We worked a lot of 712s or 610s where you just like mostly overtime for about 15 years, and you work with the same guys, and you develop that camaraderie again and that group around you. And then I went into business for myself, and I didn't have any of that. I had guys working for me, but I was in the office, and it went
You were
horribly bad.
you were kind of the boss, that's hard when you're at
Yeah,
the top. You're
yeah.
kind of alone when you're there because of all the burden, the responsibility, and the careers of everybody kinda rides on your shoulders. But let's talk a little bit
Yeah.
about your business, because from my understanding, you ran a very successful business, one that people sought after so much. In fact, you were on another podcast. You wanna talk a little bit about that and why they asked you to come on?
I went, yeah. The first year I started, I did pretty bad. I did like $50,000, and it cost me $90,000 to do it. And then the next year I turned around and I had like over $1 million in sales. And then I had health problems. And that's why I was on there, because I turned things around so much. And and then I had some health issues. I had to have back surgery, and then I had to have surgery on my Achilles, and there were other aspects of my life that I'm not going to talk about on here because it involves relationships and other people, but there was other stuff going on, and it just all fell apart. And I went from what I thought was rock bottom to doing really, really well. And then it all came tumbling down, and I hit rock bottom about 2 years ago. And I realized from that the reason I started a business was to try to get ahead of problems that I was having in other areas of my life. And I figured if I could do well enough in that and I could be home when I needed to be home to handle stuff, that would be the best case scenario. And then it just got to be too much. And I wasn't passionate about making a bunch of money. It was more of a get ahead of the problem thing. I've always been really minimalist. I would rather sit out in the woods and sleep in a tent, or not not get up at 4 in the morning and drive an hour to work and work 12 hours and drive an hour home and take a shower and eat gas station meals 2 or 3 times a day. And after in the looking back on everything, which I do all the time still, I'm still digging out of this big ass hole that I got in with it. It wasn't anything I wanted. It was something I was doing because I felt like I needed to do it, not because I wanted to do it.
Yeah. And now, we said you hit your rock bottom. What did that look like for you? Like, were you at the time, were you drinking? Like, what was going on without
No,
giving too much detail about other people? Like, as far as your life, what were you doing every day to cause
I
that?
was I was just running. Running is like the worse things got, the harder I flailed, and I was just making things worse by trying to fix them. I'd actually given up drinking for the most part probably about 10 years ago, and I would only every couple months I would have a couple drinks. I drank a lot right out of the Navy. Um, but it was all mental health stuff. Like I gave up. I just quit caring about anything, and I was about a year ago. I was pretty close to becoming one of the 22 a day. It was just the failure after failure that I kept coming across was just the defeat. It beat me. I felt defeated, and like there was nothing good left to look forward to.
Berg, did you ever try to get help, maybe through the VA?
Yeah, I was on some antidepressants and stuff. I still see a therapist. Actually, I accidentally missed it this morning because I didn't hear my phone ringing. But I see a therapist through the vet center regularly, and she was worried at that time. I was seeing her twice a week because she was like very concerned, and she actually wanted me to go in and check myself in. But I just like there was things I needed to get done that other people, being able to move back into their house counted on. So I never did that. Um, but she did a really good job of keeping me around, you know, during that time.
Yeah. And you said, did they prescribe you medication as well?
They did, and it didn't help at all.
What
It
did it do
put me
for
in a
you? I'm curious, just from your point of view and your experience. Like, how do you remember going back into that time and being on that? Like, do you remember what other people were saying about you or how it made you feel? Do you remember that?
I was I I spent a couple years in pretty deep isolation, and so I don't know what anybody was. I know my sister called me one day and said, "Hey, if you start drinking again and staying away from us, please check in," because she was worried. Um, they were worried about finding me one morning. I don't remember much of anything. It put me in such a stupor that I would just like, I don't know. I don't even know what I was doing. Probably sitting and staring at the wall half the day.
It
Um,
just blows my mind, man. Like, cause I hear your story and I can relate to that and so many other of my brothers and sisters have similar stories, and it just blows my mind that in America we still prescribe these medicines that put us at a higher risk of 22 a day. And
Yeah.
other countries know about this. Here on this podcast, I've talked to um, Derek from Australia. I talked to Brad from Canada. In Canada, if veterans are going to be given SSRIs, they give them the option of cannabis, and then they cover, I think, 2 grams of it a day because they know the risk in giving veterans who are already in crisis of 22 a day, medication that actually increases the likelihood of that happening. And so, what I'm trying to do is tie it to real life stories like yours, Berg. And thank you so much for coming on and talking about it. And, you know, because when other veterans hear about it, it's not like some celebrity. This is real life shit going on. And what you're talking about is real life proof uh, to those metrics. And I don't give a shit about metrics, but what I do give a shit about is this crisis and getting the word out so that others won't be afraid to try something to make a difference. I'm tired of talking about it, and I'm so proud of you. The fact that you're still here today to tell your story and share it with others, that helps. That's how we do this. And we share it out with others, and when they hear it, they're like, damn, good for him, man. So, I
Yeah.
apologize, but I'm super grateful for you for even, just going back and feeling that with us and sharing that because it's the reality of it is it's contributing to the crisis, and that's how our veterans are treated. And it's not the fault of the doctor. I don't think they know any better a lot of the time. I don't think they know any better.
No, I don't either. It's standard practice. Like it's what they were taught as they went through medical school and their, I don't remember what they're called, basically apprenticeships. But it's all they're taught.
So, let's talk about your cannabis journey. Can you first off, what do you use cannabis for and how do you consume it?
I have used it. I mostly smoke it. I've got a. I don't like the little one hitters from the dugouts because they're too small and it just constantly cleaning it. So I use a chillum, and then I have a grinder that just I use it like a dugout, but it just I don't gotta reload it every time I smoke. Um, when I was when I hit rock bottom, I was using it too much. I was using it to just numb myself. Um, but about 10 years ago, I was giving one of my buddies a ride, and we got done doing whatever we needed to do, and we stopped at the bar, and he tossed me a joint. And he's like, "Hey, man, appreciate it." And this, I was still drinking a decent amount back then. It wasn't a problem anymore like it had been, but it was more than I probably should have been. And I sat on that thing because I got drug tested all the time at work, working on the pipeline. It's all Department of Transportation, so it's federal. And I sat on it for a long, long time. And then one day, my stepdaughters were at their dad's, and it was like an incredibly unseasonably warm day. And me and my ex-wife sat out in the front yard and smoked it. And it was the first time I'd smoked since I was in like, it had to have been like 18 years since I was in high school. and it has changed a lot since then. 'Cause I was, that first time I smoked it like I had in high school, and it knocked me out. And I went to sleep. And then I started smoking maybe once or twice a week at night, and I noticed that it really would help. Like I have really bad arthritis, especially in my hands and shoulders, and it would help me not feel all that pain. And so at first, I just started, at nights and on the weekends, and then I hit that low spot, and I just all day, every day. That's pretty much all I did to just not feel. And I almost quit completely then because I was like, man, this is a problem now. It's not just like anything. It can be abused. But I slowed down, and now I pay more attention to what I'm smoking. I don't just get what I get from somebody. I get sativas because I still have like all this. I'm an adventurous guy. I'm a thrill seeker, and I still have that heart in me. My body just can't do it. So
I know what you mean.
I every now and then I'll take a couple puffs, and I get sativas mostly, and the pain will subside a little bit, and I'll have a little boost of energy. And one of the symptoms of what I have is fatigue, and so I get real fatigued in my legs, especially, and I can push through it, and that helps. It helps with the fatigue a little bit. It gives me a little bit of a pep, and that's what I use it for.
I'm really glad you covered that about over consuming and just using it all day, because this is a conversation that I've had so many occasions where people say, cannabis is still just a crutch. And it can be. It really can be for some people. I think it really is in the intentions on why you're using it. And like with my name and what my mission and what I do, a lot of people think that I just stay high all the time, like wake and bake, but it's not really the case. Um,
Yeah,
I use it primarily for pain during the day, and I love that you'd mention that, because so many people think that it puts them out. Like you said it did you your first time back. You said it knocked you out and you just slept all night. And some people, they you can't do that. You can't do that during the day. But be by trial and error, like I talk about with my book, Strains for Pains. Just try out different strains, find out what works for you, because there are strains out there that can give you energy and help you push through the pain. And like I talked in a previous interview with Dustin Sanella, he used it to get through the pain through the day. And
yeah,
there's different strains for different pains, and keep track of what works for you. So good job talking about that. And I too am a smoker, a flower guy. And I actually went to Doobie's Cannabis Consumption Lounge in Rolla, Missouri this past weekend with my mom. I took her to Blacklight Bong Bingo. But they have like every way you can consume there. And they had the volcano, which is like you take flour, you know, weed, and you put it in this thing and you screw it down, put it in the volcano, and it heats it up without fire, so no carcinogens, to the point where it like steams it out into a bag. And they handed me a bag with a mouthpiece on it.
yeah.
And so I was like, cool. So I took it. I'm like, how long does this last? And the bud tender, Tyler at Doobie's said, you could probably keep it for like 2 hours. You can still taste it for 2 hours. Waxy's
Oh,
like, nah, man, make sure you use it within like 10 minutes. But it was neat because it wasn't as hot as smoking. So
yeah,
it's a lot cooler, but it's still all of the benefits of the smoking, because it hit instantly and you knew when it hit, like you do when you smoke, minus the cons of the carcinogens. So those volcanoes, I learned, were the introduction to medicinal cannabis users in California when it came out. That's what they were using or recommend patients get, because it's the healthiest, most effective way of consumption. So I just wanted to share it. I thought that was cool, and I didn't know if you'd ever tried one of those.
I haven't tried the volcano, but I used to have a vaporizer pen. It just looked like the liquid vapes that you put flour in. It did the same thing, and I liked it because you didn't have, like, I cough all the time when I smoke, and I don't like that at all. So I like that part of it, but it got gummed up so bad so quickly that it was a hassle. I'm all about efficiency. I smoke and chill them because I can get 3 or 4 smokes out of packing at one time, instead of having to do it every time and that. So, but I haven't tried the volcano, but I've always wanted to. But I did have a vaporizer pen that did us pretty much the same principle there. It had a little coil that would just heat it
Yeah.
enough to release the trichomes and that, and not burn it.
I've tried those before, and to me, it made, no kidding, man, it made my flour taste like peas And so I was like, I don't mind peas. I like to eat peas, but I don't wanna taste peas like from a vape. So that was gross, but this didn't the volcano's not like that. So if you haven't tried that, I recommend it, man, if you ever get the chance. They're
Oh
expensive.
yeah,
I wouldn't recommend buying one, but
that's what
hey,
kept me from doing it already.
yeah, man. If you have consumption lounges in your area, check them out.
They legalized it here a couple years ago, but they're just now getting to issuing licenses for dispensaries and stuff. There's only been like two open in the state, and they're 3 or 4 hours from me. So we're getting there. It's just enacting the legislation after they legalized. It's taken a while.
Right. I did wanna talk a little bit more about how you use cannabis to find balance, because you talked about being out in nature, one with nature, and you talked about how you consume cannabis to kinda help with the pain to get through the day. Um, and myself, I know if I'm out in nature, I do the same, I might smoke a little to help with the knees, the hips, the shoulders, to set up camp. But I also know that I will use it to take a break instead of that, seltzer or that beer or that vodka vodka
Oh
monster
yeah,
drink was my poison. I'll just hit up the pipe or I'll light up a joint and take a few drags. And what I've noticed with me is aside from the pain, I'm pretty most strains help me kind of deal with it. It's not that it goes away, but it helps me deal with it, and it also helps with the inflammation a little bit. And it also helps me really focus on nature. Like, I will fade out, my thoughts will slow a little bit, and I'll hear the birds, I'll hear the river, I'll see the vivid colors and get lost in the beauty of that, like a Bob Ross that was painted just for me. Do you do any of that when you're out in
I
nature?
it does. I've spent a lot of time working on myself, and like a lot of 3 o'clock in the morning talks to with myself saying there is absolutely nothing you can do at 3 o'clock in the morning about this. Turn it off, and that has helped. It's helped with that where I just can't stop thinking 100 steps down the road. You know, um, it helps me be more present in the moment.
Absolutely.
So, like when I hike, I don't wear headphones or listen to music or anything. I take my dog and we go out, and the sounds of nature are just as beautiful as the views. And it really helps to focus, to tune out the thoughts and to just be where you're at then and there. And it's like a Bob Ross, it's just for you. I've actually had that thought standing out overlooking this vista, and I was like, there is nobody in the world that is exactly as tall as me, has the exact vision as me, that's going to stand on this exact little pile of snow and see this exact view ever. This is like just mine. And I'm guessing smoking helped me get to that.
I think it helps us realize it, become aware of that, It
Yeah.
helps us to see the thoughts and let them float on by and be more, like you said, in the moment and appreciate it. And we're talking a lot about nature. I wanted to talk a little bit more about a current project you're working on. So let's talk about that, and then we'll follow it up with, your mission, what you're looking to do. But right now, you're working on a pretty sweet off-grid project. You wanna tell the listeners a little bit about what you're working on?
Yeah, I had a old snowmobile trailer rusting away by a fence line. So I pulled that out, and I'm cutting it down, and I'm turning it into a little travel trailer. It's not a camper by any means. It's just basically I have a really nice mattress that I don't want to leave behind. So I'm building a bedroom for myself, and I've got a nice little setup for an outdoor kitchen. And once I get this done, the trailer done, then it's basically taking tent camping to the next level. And I'm just going to travel around, see all the national forests, kind of find myself for a while, and kind of to see where the road takes me. But I was actually working on it this morning after a week of rain shut it down, and there's a lot more rust than I thought. So I'm
That's a
not
good
quite
thing
as
you've
far
got
along
that.
as I'd hoped.
It's a good thing you've got that experience from the pipeline, welding and torching, I would imagine. So this is right in your wheelhouse of technical ability.
Yeah, yeah. I'm having fun with it. It's nice when you don't have to do it for a deadline, and
Yeah, you kind of do it for yourself, and
yeah,
so many veterans I talk to, it's so interesting to hear you go from, the pipeline to you started your own construction business. You learned some valuable lessons off the get-go, but then you were very successful. And at the end of the day, some years down the road, look at you now and what you've learned. And what you've learned is you know, it's not the money that brings you the happiness. It's how you spend your time, it's in the memories you make. And I'm grateful that you found that, and you wouldn't have if you woulda just sat at home. So I'm proud that you found a way that you could even use cannabis to get to where you're at and not be couch locked like so many people worry about, that you're still active. You're still out here doing things, experiencing, and you found that the simple life, not easy by any means. It sounds like a shitload of work, especially with what you're doing, but the simple life, just you learn what's really important to you and you're going after that. And I love seeing that because that keeps you active, that keeps you moving, a body in motion. That's amazing
yeah,
and powerful. So
yeah.
what got you there though? I know you said that you like to like be alone and spend time by yourself, but what got you to the point where like, you know what? I want to be that mobile, that free.
It was losing everything for the third time. Like I've had to start over 3 times in life now, where I've done pretty well. Um, I was an outstanding sailor. All my evals were excellent, and early promotes, must promotes, and I lost that. That wasn't something I screwed up, but I lost it, and I was going getting divorced at the same time, so it all kind of just fell apart. And I started over with nothing, and then I did it again, and now I'm doing it again. But every time I've like picked myself up, just picked myself up, dusted myself off, and jumped right back into it. And I've had the same result 3 times in a row. So I was like, something's got to give. And this is something I've always dreamed about doing, honestly. I'm probably going to spend some time living on a sailboat in the future. And, but I was so wrapped up in doing what you're supposed to be doing that I never did any of that for myself. And I was about to jump back into it again. I was like, why? What are you doing? You've got this opportunity to actually live your life for you and do the things you enjoy. And it's not work for me. Building this trailer, it's fun. I enjoy it. Some people would look at it as a lot of work, but I put the headphones on and I pull out the grinder and I start cutting and prepping and that. And I enjoy it. I enjoy the creativeness of it. This is all, I'm just kind of designing it, building it as I go. Um,
Yeah. You covered a lot there, really. Like, you covered a couple of key points like they were nothing, but you just gave up some gems. One of them was you found something that you can do that's work that doesn't feel like work to you. Like, I feel like the homestead isn't work for me, but 14 hours a day, I'm sweating my ass off and I'm sore every day from doing it. But I love what I'm doing, toting around soil, feeding the birds, watering things, doing stuff with the plants, building things. But I found a sense of purpose with my time, and when you can find that sense of purpose and what you're doing to spend your time, and it flies by and you love it, that's no longer work. That's doing what you love and loving what you do. And then the
Yeah.
second big thing that I definitely don't want to breeze over is what I heard you say was you've lost it all and rebuilt it all 3 times. And before I started the 420 Chief podcast, my mission was actually to talk about how you can rebuild. It's never too late because I had lost everything 2 times and rebuilt it all. And what I learned at the end of the day was, why am I what is all this good good's it gonna do? It's not happy. That's not what my happiness was, so I had to find my truth, and I had to find how I wanted to spend my time that made me happy. So, I'm grateful that you shared that with us because so many people feel like, "This is it. This is it. Oh, fuck, I can't go on anymore. It's over." And Berg's here to tell you 3 times.
It ain't easy, but it's doable.
It takes work, man, just like anything else. Just like cannabis isn't a cure-all. It takes work. Every fucking day, you gotta put into work to be a better person, to be a better you. But at the same time, realizing what everybody else thinks you should be or how you should do it doesn't even matter. It's your way. Their way's already been done. So, it's a lot. It's a lot to discuss, and I think that we get so programmed in the military, and being told who we are and getting good at what we do. Like you said, you were a good sailor, you learned how to do your job, you were squared away, and you probably went from knowing jack shit about it to being the subject matter expert on it to where you knew more than everybody else about it, and then that all changes when we get out, and it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. And,
Yeah.
so it's a lot, it's a lot to put together.
I went from work. I would brief the admiral in the morning, the battle group commander on deployments, and I worked up in flag combat some. And I went from that to being a first year apprentice with a bunch of 18, 20, 22-year-old kids that don't know anything about anything. And here I am going from kind of a big deal, not like everybody knew me or anything, but I had an important job, to basically a seaman recruit again. And that sucks.
Yeah, that's hard. That does, it feels like you're backpedaling. I
Yeah.
do have a question for you, though. For any of our other veterans that are listening that might be on the fence about trying cannabis, what would your advice be to them?
I would tell them to find somebody to do it with. Find someone experienced that you trust, and you don't have to do it all the first time. Just like dip your toes
Art
in
flow.
and right. Yeah, dip your toes in and try it. It's not going to hurt you. The only thing that it can do is help. Um, there are people that they just react badly to it and they stay away from it, and that's how you learn.
Right
But I
on.
feel like a lot of people's hesitation is because of the shit you see in movies and TV and that, where they smoke a lot and then they're running around being chased by dragons. That's just not what it's like. And it helps. It helps slow down your mind, calm. It brings peace, a little bit of peace. It helps with pain. You never know until you try.
Right on. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for that. And then I'm sure everybody wants to know what's next for Berg. Your mission, your passion, where you headed, and what are you doing there?
I last year I went through a program that does focuses on post traumatic growth. It's Boulder Crest Foundation's Warrior Path program, and um, it it saved me. It really did. And interacting in that environment helped. Like, it's a team effort. You're not there like studying all day. It's you're doing exercises and building a team, and learning how to help each other because it's a peer support program. And I really feel like I found my passion and my calling doing that. And at the same time, I have just the worst wanderlust. So right now, my plan is to go down there, volunteer here and there, take some trips with the camper, and work on myself because I'm nowhere near where I want to be with myself. Um, this is really just the beginning of my journey. So I I found a lot of different veterans organizations that need help, and there's one out in New York where they're trying to build buses and campers for homeless veterans, and I'd love to go out there and spend a couple weeks working on projects with them just to help them go get it forward. So I'm kind of that's kind of the plan. Just like renegade, wandering around, helping out where I can, working on myself in the process, and I don't know, living in the moment. You don't really look too far ahead.
Right. And I did want to shout out that Warrior Path. That's bouldercrest.org. I did check that out for you, Berg. So
Yeah,
yeah, I've heard great things about them and what they've done for you and how they've helped you. And I love hearing that. I love hearing that about organizations because I've experienced so many of them for myself, and I've heard from so many others about different organizations that have helped them. Because at the end of the day, like Jason said, um, my rock bottom doesn't have to be your rock bottom. And I love it when other veterans like yourself are willing to come on and talk about the struggles that they've been able to overcome and how they've done it. And at the same time, I really want to get the message out there about cannabis because it's really not a scary thing. It really isn't scary. I think it's just more of a lack of information. And I hear so much bad information out there. Maybe people say they smelled it and their lip itch, so they're allergic. It's like, what? That's a psychological thing. That's not realistic. Or they said, I did it and I had this bad experience. But who did they talk to about it? Did they know what strain they consumed? Did they talk to their medical doctor, like a green cert doctor, like Dr. Judd that I talk about all the time? You
yeah,
know? And anyways, it's stigmatized so bad that some people are just really scared or they did it and had like I said, a poor experience because they overconsumed and didn't realize just to start with a little bit, you don't go out there and get prescribed medication and then just take it all. You take a little fucking bit and there is start slow.
yeah.
So, right
I
on.
can tell you my worst experience was I got dehydrated. It was really hot. I got dehydrated one day and got really dizzy after I smoked. And that was less scary than stepping off of that bus in boot camp. The fear mongering is
The
really
shock
a
and awe.
yeah. It's not scary. It shouldn't be scary. Every veteran that's watching this has done much scarier shit than smoke a joint.
I agree. Absolutely. Well, Berg, any final comments, reflections, words of wisdom, or
Um,
calls to action you'd like to give our listeners?
yeah, cannabis has helped me a lot, but what's really helped me was that Warrior Path program. The post traumatic growth, the learning how to regulate myself more. A lot of that program is regulation through the outdoors and being in nature and meditation and giving yourself the time that you need for yourself. Like you have to care about yourself first. And that mindset work and the mindfulness work combined with the cannabis is it's just an incredible incredibly eye-opening experience for me. That is, I have a home health aide come out every couple weeks, and since I went through that program, my heart rate was generally around 110, 115. It was just my resting heart rate, and now it's in the 80s or 90s every time they do it. And it's from the practices I learned at the Warrior Path program, and the continuation of those practices once I was done. It's not a do this and you're better, because that's not the point of it. The point is to learn these practices, continue these practices, and continue to grow. So I would love anyone who's struggling at all, any veterans, to check out the Warrior Path program through Boulder Crest Foundation, and do it. Just do it.
Right on. I appreciate that, Berg. And just like anything, it takes consistent actions in your life. Find the things that you're willing to do for you every single day that bring you joy. And no matter what that is, no matter what it is, whether it's a program, whether it's a meetup, you know, it takes consistent actions for you. And for those of you who aren't aware, I am a founder of a nonprofit organization, breakstigmas.com. Myself and Sunnyside of Freedom have independent missions, but we have combined to create the nonprofit Break Stigmas. You can find us at breakstigmas.com to get to know us, our independent missions, and some events that we're looking to host in the near future. So, Berg, I want to say thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming on and taking the time to talk a little bit about your story of healing, and what's to come. And where can we find you? Are you just on the talk?
Yeah, I don't do much social media stuff. I just like to hang out with people and get up
Right
in a
on,
box and
man.
hang out every now and then. I'm not pushing nothing, trying to be a creator or anything like that.
I hear you. I look forward to meeting you one day and getting the dogs to play or something together. We can
Yeah,
smoke one up on the road. So if I'm
you
ever
gotta.
down there, man, I'm definitely keep in touch.
Yeah, there's a lot of great dispersed camping up here in the summertime in the national forest up here.
Right on. That sounds
So,
amazing. Well, Berg, I appreciate you for coming on today. I'm gonna put you down in a box, and then I'll meet you backstage. All right. Well, that's what it's all about, showing up one day at a time, just like Berg. His story reminds us that healing doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. It happens in the quiet moments, by the rivers, out in the woods, in the stillness, and in the courage it takes to choose a better path. If this conversation moved you, please share it out. Talk about it. Let somebody else know they're not alone. This is how we break stigmas, by telling the truth, by listening, and by leaning into community. Please check out my website, 420chief.net, to dive deeper into our mission. Check out our merch. Break my book, Strains for Pains, to document your healing journey. And support looks different from everybody. Maybe it's buying a shirt, maybe it's sharing this episode out to somebody, or maybe it's simply starting a conversation with someone who needs it. Either way, keep showing up, keep spreading light, and keep leading with love. We're better together always. So until next time,